Hey, hey, happy Monday. Happy Monday evening. Actually, it's pretty late. I'm I'm a night owl, honestly. Sometimes I get like a second wind of energy at night. Um, so just to hop right into today's subject, I actually ran across this video that I found really interesting. I'd never heard of this content creator, her name, I hope I don't butcher it. It's Brini. I think it's Brini Lee is how she says it. Anyway, looks like she's a really popular YouTuber. Has like I think almost 600,000 followers. She's been blogging for a really long time, so I was happy to run across her channel. As many of you guys know, I have been out in the market trying to research a little bit more, just wanting to find out where are women in the space hanging out, really, where are they getting their information from, who are they following, who are they just listening to. So that's been uh, a fun assignment of mine. But anyways, so I ran across her. I saw that she's been blogging for a long time, really focusing on women, really focusing also to Christian women, as she mentions in some of her videos that she, I think in her 20s, decided to become a Christian or a Christ follower. So she has a lot of spirituality in her stuff. So yeah, I wanted to just review this one video that she recently posted and just give my honest thoughts. So I'm going to pull it up. Just one moment. I'm going to pull this up and then wait if I can do that. If it lets me do it. Okay. All right. So let me pull up this video and I'm just going to go through it. I'm going to share my particular perspective on what's going on. All right. So this is a video that she recently created called 10 Signs You're Settling for Less. She just dropped this a few days ago. And yeah, I'm just going to go over it and give you my thoughts. So let me see if I can play it. There goes ad.
That look is a look that can only happen by a roaring fire.
Concerned about being chosen that you forget to choose.
Okay.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Hope you guys are doing well. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about 10 signs that you are settling. And before I get into the video, I just want to say that everyone deserves to be happy and confident in the choices they make for their lives. And I feel like I had to say that because when it comes to the topic of deserving, I know that people who have quite low self-esteem find it difficult to believe that they deserve anything. And those are the people who tend to settle the most and actually be unhappy afterwards. When we don't believe that we are worthy of the things that we are asking for, we tend to actually settle for less because that's what we believe we deserve.
Okay, interesting. So, it's interesting that she uses the word settling, because even if we think the idea of like somebody settling down, which generally if it's like, oh, I settled down, it's like, yeah, I've planted my roots, I've committed to this relationship, to this family, whatever it may be, and so I don't necessarily always see that as like a negative thing. I think, yeah, settling down is kind of an aspect of what you do when you decide to be in a relationship. So it's interesting to me that we see, I guess, settling in that sense being used in a way that's somewhat negative. Although I think, like, literally, I mean, the settling down is literally just that. You make a choice to be with somebody. You make a choice to either want to marry them, to either want to plant roots, things like that. But I mean, I think I understand where she's coming from. Hey, Comgyverse. I know it's probably late for some of you guys. I'm a night owl, and sometimes I just get a second wind, so I wanted to do a late night. Yeah, late night life. But yeah, so I think I understand where she's coming from. She's saying like you shouldn't. I'm assuming she's saying you shouldn't lower your standards. I'll continue to listen and see what she means. But like I said, I found it interesting that she used the word settle when literally, if a person does want to get married or have a relationship, they like settle down. So that's not always bad. But We'll see. We will see. These are the best times to let your thoughts free. That's actually what my husband said. Appreciate it. um, all right.
Whether that's because of what people have told you from young, whether that has been family, siblings, teachers, all telling you what you deserve. And that is basically nothing. And so those words become seeds in our lives, and we actually internalize that and start to live at a very, very low level. And today we're talking about relationships, but this can go for anything in life. And if you want to hear more about that, make sure you guys check out my How to Level Up Mentally 2021 video, where I go into a lot more detail about the many ways in which we settle in other areas of our life too. So this video can apply to those who have just met someone, who are just dating someone, who are in a relationship with someone, or even married to someone, sadly. I always feel like it's really sad, and I almost sometimes don't want to give advice to married couples, because I feel like that is such a sacred union that I can't just be so nilly like, oh yeah, just leave, I fear God. So anyway, you're gonna make your own choices at the end of the day anyway. But I want to talk about settling today. And I want to say that we all make compromises in life. Life is about compromise, relationship is about compromise. But compromising and settling are two different things. You compromise on your preferences, but you should never compromise on your standards and deal breakers. And I'll link a video here for you guys to see the difference between standards, deal breakers, preferences, and expectations.
Interesting.
So the kind of compromises that we make in relationships are, you compromise where you want to live. Maybe he wants to live in the East, maybe you want to live in the West. You may compromise where you want to get married. He wants to get married in Italy, you want to get married in the Caribbean. You make it work somehow. You may compromise on how many kids you want to have. He may want to have 5. You're happy with 3 or 4. That's a compromise. You may compromise on what color you want to paint the living room. You may want it to be white. He may want it to be grey. These are compromises that you make in relationships. So I think a lot of people, they really confuse compromising and settling. Settling is completely different. But ultimately, you settle when you relax your standards.
Okay, really quick on this idea of relaxing your standards. I know I kind of let it go for a long time. What I found, just in my personal experience, and just in having friends, having many female friends, and actually having many female friends who claim to be Christian, as she herself is that sometimes the standards that women have or that we have isn't necessarily always good. There are times when relaxing standards or adjusting standards or changing standards, sometimes that can be actually healthy if the standards that one has at that particular time is unrealistic. Like, let's say you're a woman, you're just like, hey, my standard is I got to be with a dude that's at least 6'7" and makes $500,000. Like, if that is your your standard or whatever, and you're not, that's something that you're just like, I'm not willing to budge on. That particular thing in and of itself is not necessarily good. And I do think she's trying to make a distinction of saying, well, basically, if I'm understanding correctly, I think she's saying, okay, I guess preferences versus standards, which ones are things that you can compromise on, and then others are things that you can't compromise on. But it's like, okay, then at what point do you determine the things that are not worth compromising versus what is worth compromising? I don't know. It's it's a bit of a slippery slope, but I think I know where she's going with this, but we'll continue to see. Hey there, thanks for stopping by. Great interview with the old man. Awesome. I appreciate it. Yeah, I plan to have many more, God willing. So appreciate you stopping by. I'm going over a video that I ran across from a popular female YouTuber. She has like over 600, I think like 600,000 followers. I just ran across her yesterday. So I'm getting acclimated with her content, getting used to her content. But yeah, I saw this video and thought it was really interesting, and it got a lot of feedback, and I just wanted to give my 2 cents on it. So we're going to keep on going.
Your standards on the way that you want to be treated, your standards on the way you want to feel when you're in a relationship, your standards on how financially stable you want to feel in the relationship with someone. You want to be able to share the same religion, the same beliefs as your partner, your standards of you wanting to have kids, and the list goes on. These are the things that are super, 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 super important.
Have you ever dreamed of winning a home?
Okay, looks like we're going into an ad here. Okay, real quick before we go back into it. So it looks like she goes into it a little bit more. I see I've been really enjoying your content. Thank you. I appreciate it. I certainly appreciate it. Feel free to share it with anybody who you think may find the content this helpful, interesting, useful, especially to women. I see we need more dialogue between the Black manosphere and the Black nationalist Pan-Africanist. Yes, we do. And we are actually going to be having, we have some of that coming up, but tomorrow we have a really exciting interview with Omowale Africa, who has some very strong feelings about the Black manosphere in general. So I'm excited to have him on. So thanks for bringing that up, Comgyverse. And yes, any of you guys who are on and available tomorrow, stop by. We're going to be having a conversation 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But anyways, back for my plug. So yeah, it looks like she goes into a little bit more detail as standards versus standards versus, I guess, preferences, if you will. Like I said, it is a pretty slippery slope. It really is. I totally understand what she's saying, where it's like, hey, yeah, there's certain things that you shouldn't compromise on. Like, obviously, if you're with a person and they want kids, you don't want kids, that's kind of like a deal breaker, okay? Or you're with somebody and you are a staunch Orthodox, avid, I don't know, like Muslim or Christian or whatever, you probably don't want to be with a Satanist, or you probably want to be with an atheist or something like that. So I understand there's certain things where it's like, hey, on a value standpoint, we can't compromise on that. So that I think I understand where she's going. Okay, let me continue.
This and
to you. A preference is, he has to be 6'4". He has to be light skinned. He has to be dark skinned. He has to be English. He has to be Black. Like, these are preferences. These are not standards. So I'm going to talk about 10 signs that you are settling for less than what you deserve and less than what you want. The first sign is that you justify him a lot, whether to your friends, whether to yourself. You justify him a lot. You can't just say, this is my guy and I absolutely love everything about him. He's great. You almost say it, but then you're like, but he doesn't have, but he cannot do, but he's good in all these other areas. We women do that a lot. But in this area, he's got this, he's got what I'm looking for in this area. And I think when we're starting to justify a person, you have to start questioning, is this a person that you really want, or you're just making excuses for him?
Okay, so that's actually facts. I actually said this in the video that I recorded a few weeks ago, where entitled "Women Are Loyal to Dusties," and I kind of talk about this exact reason, where once the woman has decided she loves a dude or she's into a guy or whatever, and of course it isn't going to be for all of them, but for many women, they can be loyal to a fault. And it just so happens, my personal opinion, but it just so happens that many young women lack the ability to choose and discern wisely. And I think there's a combination of this. I think it's just mostly because in today we come from such broken families. Most of us do, maybe divorces or maybe single parent households, maybe in a situation where you were unstable, you didn't actually see a functioning, healthy marriage growing up between two adults who were committed to one another, who knew how to rough through things. Many of us just don't have that. And so young women start, their dating life, their relationship life with all these untested ideas, usually based upon a mixture of what they've seen online, on media, on social media nowadays, the different romance novels. So they've kind of created things in their mind of what a good relationship would be. And without strong parental guidance, without a strong community, a strong God-fearing community, just strong elders, whatever it may be, without them to offer guidance and wisdom, she's going to go out and just make, young and dumb mistakes. And so what she is saying, I think, is totally and completely spot on, where yes, women, especially when they're young and dumb, however you want to put it, young and impressionable, if they get their heart, connected to a guy, they will defend him at all costs, even if he is not worth the defending. And it just so happens that many of us, when we were young, we are attracted to what is broken because we are broken. This is not all of us. There are some people who come from functioning families. Most people do not, or most people don't have any idea of what it means to choose a good husband. What are the qualities necessary to choose a good husband? Many women, when they're young, they just want the exciting guy, the guy that looks good, the guy that has all the swag, the guy that all the other girls want, the guy that has a personality. Like, they're not necessarily looking for the qualities that necessitate having a healthy family, having a healthy bond, being a good husband. They don't always look for that because many of them don't know how to. So with that said, I think she's spot on. I think she is spot on. And I can say that from experience and just from being a woman and having women friends. That is like real talk.
You're making him seem better than he actually is, or you're trying to convince people that he is actually what you want. And I know how frustrating it is when you meet someone who ticks some or most of your boxes, but the other areas that you're just like, I wish I could overlook it, but I can't. The reason why you can't overlook it is because those are your deal breakers. Those things are really important to you. You need those things in order to feel safe in a relationship, in order to respect him as your leader, as your husband, as the person that you want to follow. The second sign that you are settling for less than what you deserve or what you want is that you don't accept him for who he is. You keep on thinking about his potential. You keep on thinking about who he could be rather than accepting him for who he is right now. And this was a conversation that I had with one of my friends over and over and over and over again. And if she would watch this video, she'd probably laugh. But it was annoying to me because I understand the fact that he had one of her number one deal breakers. But something that was important to her to make her feel safe emotionally, he lacked. And he didn't really want to change. It would have changed for her, but it wouldn't have been an honest change.
Okay, so I think she makes another great point. There are many women who do go sometimes into relationships with the idea of, I can change this person. Oh, he'll change for me. Or okay, I get next to him. Once he dates me, once he marries me, whatever it may be, then he'll have this quality. And it usually doesn't work like that. Somebody has to decide to change because they want to change, especially a man, especially a strong man. He has to decide to change because he wants to. Now, some people can put on a facade. Some people can maybe, may accommodate a person. A man may accommodate a woman, especially if he really likes her in the dating phase, or he wants to win her approval on some level, or wants to be in her good graces. Then he might shift or modify his behavior on some level to try to make her feel comfortable. But case in point, you can't change. You can't really change a man. A man has to change because he wants to change. And with that said, so I think she makes a good point. If you're not actually happy with how that person is right then and there, if you can't accept him for who he is right then and there, then you really should question whether or not it's worth going on. Because if you think that you're going to be in his good graces, or he's going to be in your graces or in your presence, and you're going to just automatically change him, it don't work like that. A person has to want to change because they desire to. And you know why they may be inspired by other things. Not to say that you can't encourage them to be the best version of themselves in some way or capacity, but I wouldn't hold my breath and think that they're just going to change for you, because that's just not going to happen. I see her hairstyle is interesting. All right, comments on the hairstyle. She has a very modern hairstyle.
It wouldn't have been something he wanted to do. And what happens when someone changes for you, once they get you, they change back to default, because that's actually not who they are. And it's actually very unfair to wait on someone to become something that you want them to be, rather than accepting them for who they are. And I always say, if you can't accept someone for who they are right now, like literally the person that you're seeing right now, this is all you're going to get. Would you be happy? And if you wouldn't, do him a favor and let him go. Do yourself a favor and let him go. The third sign that you are settling for less is that when you're out, you have wandering eyes. You're constantly still looking. And this kind of goes more to people who are in relationships and are married, because when you're dating, it's actually okay for you to look at other people, like, or wonder, because you're still dating that person. It's not that serious. However, if you're in a relationship with someone and you're looking at someone else, that's the big sign that you're settling. I feel like.
Okay, so I slightly disagree there. I think I don't think that's always an indication that you're with somebody, you're not with a good person. I think sometimes that could be that individual person. If a person is not happy with who they are, or if they just, so, some people are greedy, or some people naturally have wandering eyes. There are some men, there are some women out there who just, they can't be satisfied. That's a personal thing. That is their own soul, their own spirit, their own personality, where they have an insatiable appetite. So those kinds of people, it doesn't matter if you give them a perfect match. By nature of who they are, they're going to have wandering eyes. They're always going to look for the bigger, the better, the best, the this, the that. They're not satisfied. They can never be satisfied because they're not satisfied internally. So I don't think it's always an indication that if you're in a relationship with somebody, you've been married to somebody, you've been in a long-term situation with somebody else, that if you have wandering eyes, if you're looking at somebody else, that they're not the one. Now, I think I understand where she's coming from. That can be a sign. Like, if you don't find yourself satisfied in a relationship, if you kind of feel bored, if you kind of feel uninspired, that might be a sign. But it's, I don't think it's always. And I think especially if you're in a marriage or if you're in a relationship that's long term, it does not necessarily mean that person is a good fit. Sometimes that could be a season in the relationship where maybe, okay, you guys are going through a rough patch and you need to work through things. Or maybe it's that person. Maybe it's the person where there's an aspect of them where they have a hard time being content, and they have this idea of the grass is always green on the other side, which is not always. Or maybe that person just has a lust problem. Maybe that shit, or they just have a lust problem, and it don't matter how good their partner looks. If they see somebody or something else that looks good, they're gonna want to engage. So yeah, so I think I slightly disagree on that point. Although I think I do understand where she's coming from. Okay, let me continue.
When you're settled, as in you're happy in your relationship, you're happy with the person that you're getting to know, you're happy with the person that you've chosen, you're not looking for signs, you're not looking for other people, you're actually very happy with what you've got. You're happy with your lot. The fourth sign that you may be settling is that you're secretly jealous of other couples that have what you want, or that may have the man that you want. Like, you're secretly jealous. You want that, and you may downplay it, like, oh, it's not really real, or you judge it. If you're judging another couple, it's probably because you want that for yourself, but you don't have it.
That's true.
The current person that you're seeing, and
I go to sleep with it on.
Okay, so as that goes into another ad. So that's actually, I do agree with her there that sometimes people are. Oh, I agree with the fact of this, that women can, but I say women because we're talking about women primarily. They can certainly get jealous, and in the age of social media and Instagram, 100% they can get jealous. Now, with that said, I can't say I don't think that's necessarily always an indication that the person you're with is not a good match or it's settling, because by nature of social media, the nature of our culture today is to compare. The nature of our culture today is to look at your life and compare it to the top 5%, to the celebrities. Like, think about how many female content channels are revolved around everything that celebrities do, everything that celebrities and entertainers, actresses do. Like, that's a lot of female channels are quite literally, I don't want to say obsessed, but almost obsessed with that. So, just by the nature of there being a culture of comparison where women compare their bodies, they compare their lives, they compare their how much luxury they have, they compare their weaves, they compare their nails, they compare their clothes, they compare their bags. I don't necessarily think because of that, that just because a woman compares her relationship with another man, then that means that she's with the wrong person. I just think sometimes that could be the nature of the woman, and that can be the fact that she's comparing the rest of her other life. She's comparing other aspects of her life with other, with other people. So why would she do that with her relationship? So that's what I'm saying. I don't know that that's always the case. Okay, let me continue.
I wake up
As
and
we
I
hit
look
this
well
ad.
rested. I started incorporating skincare into my self-care.
And that is something to definitely take note of. When you're in a happy relationship, when you're happy, you will literally be happy for other people. But when you're not happy, it's very difficult to genuinely be happy for others. The fifth sign that you may be settling is that you often daydream about being by yourself. You often daydream about being single again. Oh, what it would be like to have my own time, not to have to share my food, share my space. You daydream, you desire to be by yourself. When you love someone or you're in a relationship with someone, you're getting to know someone, you're not trying to run away from them. You're actually trying to run to them. You are wanting to spend as much time with them as possible. You're not trying to think about, and of course it's normal to want to have space from someone, of course, but when you actually want to be single, like this is long, you may be settling. The sixth sign that you may be settling is that this person gives you the.
So I'll say real quick, I've never had that experience. So I can't really speak personally on that. I also can't speak personally on any women or people that I know in my own life who have had that. So okay, so you said you've been there. Okay, interesting. Yeah, I haven't, but I'll take your word for it. That is an interesting point. I don't think anytime I was dating, I don't know there was ever a time where I'm like, oh, I just want to be single again. But I don't know. Maybe I guess if you're with somebody where you guys just don't get along, maybe there's a lot of drama or bickering or toxicity, then yeah, that kind of makes sense. So interesting point. We're gonna move on. We will move on.
Ick. Now, I didn't know what the ick meant until Love Island 2019, but the ick is when you look at them like this. Like I keep on saying this. When you actually like someone, even the most annoying thing about them is cute. It's endearing. You're not having to be like, or like the bad habits that they have, or leaving the toilet seat up, or no things like that. Like, you may roll your eyes and be like, oh, there he goes again. But certain things that you may be finding, like little things, it's just like everything is annoying you. Like he's actually become annoying to you. You've got the ick. And it may be a sign that you're settling. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7, 7, 7. The seventh sign that
okay, so interesting. Now, I know married couples who certainly have had ick moments and ick seasons of their life, but I do think I understand if you're in the dating season, you're in the dating phase where it's supposed to be like, for the most part, butterflies and tulips and daisies. And I'm kind of being facetious, but you know what I mean. You're in the season where it's generally people are on their better behavior. And you're having the ick feeling, then yeah, that's probably a bad sign for sure. Like I can definitely agree with that.
you may be settling is it's starting to feel like a chore. It feels like too much effort. It feels like too much effort to call them. It feels too much effort to text them back. It feels like too much effort to go out with them. It feels too much of an effort to look nice for them. It's too much of an effort for you to cook for them. It's like it's a chore. Like when you're in love, everything is beautiful. You want to do everything. Yes, my king. Yeah, of course. Yes. When you love someone, when you're in love with someone, when you respect someone, it's yes. When you don't really like them anymore, it's no. You start to actually say no more because you're not trying to impress them. You don't want to make them happy. You care about yourself only. And that might be a sign that you're actually settling. The 8th sign.
That could be a sign that you're settling, or it could also be a sign that you're just selfish. Because I think to assume that if you're in a relationship with somebody, you're going to have in love feelings 24/7. I mean, that would be great if that was reality, but I don't know any married couple that's been married longer than like a year that says that's their reality. So, yeah, I mean, I think an aspect of love sometimes is pushing past and doing things that you just don't really want to do. Like you may not feel like cooking your spouse a meal, or you may not feel like getting dressed up for a certain thing, or you may not feel like, cleaning the dishes, like whatever it may be, but or or going to that company party, it's again whatever it may be, you may not feel like it, but if you love them, then sometimes you make that sacrifice. And love, I think it's unrealistic to think that you're going to have a in love feeling all the time. That can happen in certain phases of the relationship, I think, especially early on. um but like I said, I don't know any married couple that's been married for any ounce of time that says, oh yeah, 100% of the time I just have this unloved feeling, and it's like yes, 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 yes. They're usually like, man, I'm selfish, she's selfish here, and we make it work through sacrificing for one another and through our love growing. So again, that's just my opinion. That's just my opinion.
Sign that you may be settling for less is that they don't inspire you. You may have been someone who was a go-getter, who was ambitious, and now you feel like, what is life? Or the fact that they're not ambitious is kind of wearing thin on your ambitiousness. So when there's two people that are ambitious or people that are go-getters, iron sharpens iron. There's sparks because you're like, babe, try this. And he's like, oh no, I haven't tried it, but have you tried this? And it's like a nice tennis. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. You're inspired. You both inspire each other. But in a relationship where you're with someone that doesn't inspire you, doesn't make you want to do better, doesn't make you want to slay, to kill it, you may be settling. And the ninth sign that you...
Okay, so that's interesting. Okay, I see this. The real relationship. Hey, Mr. Charles, I see the real relationship doesn't start until the honeymoon phase is over and both parties can be comfortable bored in front of one another. I think that's facts. I said that earlier, where I think it is a little unrealistic to think that you're always going to have this in love phase where everything that you do for that person is going to be based upon some flowery feeling, or everything they do for you is going to be some flowery feeling, and you guys are both always going to be happy, or happy majority of the time. I don't know that that's necessarily realistic. There are again times where, to your point, life is just maybe monotonous. You go through different seasons like that where it's okay, it's kind of monotonous day. There's times where you have to do things and you don't really want to do it. You and your feelings don't want to do it, but you decide to do it because you love that person, or because it's important to them, or because it's good for them. So being in love does not necessarily mean that you always have these in love feelings. Love is very, very, very much a choice. And so I don't think someone should feel like just because certain feelings go away, it's not always, lights, camera, action, and sparkles and fairy dust, that it's bad, or that there was somebody that they're settling. And that I make reference to this in another video where I say what's really unfortunate and what's really dangerous is when people look at their real life relationships and then they compare it to the stuff that they see on Instagram. They compare it to the 20-second snippet on TikTok, or some photo they see on Facebook. That's when it's really a problem, because nobody knows what happens behind closed doors. I know couples who have, you're talking DV, you're talking, homelessness sometimes, extramarital affairs, all kind of stuff that happening behind closed doors. But you go on their IG and it's like, oh, wow, how cute. They had a beach day. Or wow, look at them. They just took a family photo. Like, their Instagram life is on point. Like everything is beautiful, matching outfits, matching hairstyles, color coordinated, whatever it may be. But their life in actuality speaks to something different. And so it is incredibly dangerous for any woman in particular to take their real life and their real relationship and to compare it to a 20-second TikTok video or an image they see on Instagram or anything like that, because that's not real life. Real life and, love and relationships, if you talk to people again who have actually been in the game, It, it goes through seasons and phases. It goes through different processes. And that's part of the beauty of a relationship, and that it can grow. So I do understand her saying, yeah, there are certain things that you should not settle on. There are certain values and things that you shouldn't settle on. But like I said, I personally don't think that you're in any relationship you're always going to have in love feelings. In any relationship, you're always going to feel like, oh, incredibly happy. There's going to be some point in that relationship where you have to choose to love that person, and vice versa. And there's beauty in that. But like I said, that's just my opinion.
Maybe settling is quite a serious one and quite important. And the mindset that you might be settling is that I actually don't respect them.
Ooh, that's okay. We're about to hit this ad and then go into hopefully the last section.
When you think about it, and they almost embarrass you a little bit. You're not proud to be like, yeah, that's my man, and I'm gonna sit beside him. Like, you're not excited to show him off or speak. You don't speak highly of him because you don't respect him. Like, what you see as a man is not him. When a woman is in love and respects a man, she can't stop talking about him. She would not purposely do things to hurt him or disrespect him. No. When you respect someone, you're very, very careful about what you say, what you do, your tone. Like, you're very, very careful. When you look down, and that's what disrespect is. Disrespect is when you look down on someone. If you don't respect that person, men need respect, women need love. If you don't respect him, it's not going to work. And it may be a big sign that you're actually settling for him. And I'll say another one, it's kind of like a 9.5. If you feel sorry for him or you pity him, that may be a sign that you're settling. Nobody wants to be a charity case. Nobody wants you to be with them because you feel sorry for them. That's one of the worst reasons to be with someone, because you're going to start to resent them. You don't need to feel sorry for a grown-ass man. And if you do feel sorry for him, just remain his friend. Help him from a distance. But you don't need to be in a relationship with someone to help them in that sense. So sign number 9.5, you may be settling, pity him. And number 10.
Okay, so there was a lot there. She's definitely right about the respect. Respect is incredibly important, especially for men. I think that's like kryptonite. Disrespect to men, that's like kryptonite. They'll, push you away, consciously or subconsciously, if it's consistent. Now, what I will say, and this is just a total side note, I just believe personally that women and men in general, there should just be a baseline respect that exists for just a person. And I think in particular, there should be a baseline of respect that a woman has for a man and a man has for a woman. Unfortunately, we just don't live in a society where that is the norm. We just don't live in that society where that is the norm. We live in a society where, we see women challenging men, talking to men, popping off at the mouth to men as if they're the same, talking to them like that's like her girlfriend or sister or whatever. And then we see dudes the same way, like responding back, like, it's okay if you're going to talk to me like this, I'm gonna respond back to you like this. And I just think there's a great imbalance. I think there's a great imbalance, and I think there's just a ton of disrespect and dishonor within our culture, period. So it just spills over into relationships, and it's not good. But I agree on a base level. There needs to be respect. A woman needs to respect the man that she is with. That is not a nice to have. That is a fundamental. And that respect, I don't even think that respect should be, I don't think that respect necessarily should be conditional. If you choose to be with somebody, if you choose to be in a relationship, if you choose to marry somebody, then there needs to be respect. And to her point, if you can't respect that person, then it's better to exit. I agree there, because not having respect will be damaging and will create such chaos in a relationship, especially if you're in a relationship with a strong man. If he senses there's no respect, that'll sooner or later that'll cause some crazy damage. Okay, we're almost at the end here.
An attempt sign that you may be settling for less is that you downplay what you actually deserve. You know all these things, yes, but you're like, but do I deserve what I actually want? Are my standards just too high? Am I looking for a needle in a haystack? Does that person even exist? And because you don't believe that person exists, you sound and say, oh, hey, this is comfortable. I don't feel threatened in a relationship. I don't feel insecure in a relationship. Of course, it's going to be with me. But where else would he go? Who else would have him? Are you a garbage can? That's how you feel about yourself. And some women can feel like, why would I want something that I don't have myself? And this is where I don't agree with like for like. How can I expect him to have a house if I don't have a house? Listen, baby girl, when I did not have a house is a standard still. Because we look up to our men. Why would you require less than what you have, or even similar? Aren't you supposed to be inspired by him? Aren't you supposed to be proud of him? And don't get me wrong, there's people that live at home and are working towards getting a house. I'm not judging anybody, but you know what is good for your soul. And what I really want to communicate in this video is, women, you have a choice.
Okay, so I'm going to disagree with her there. Yeah, I think I will disagree with her there. Okay, so I understand what she's saying about you not wanting to change your standards to a degree. As far as value systems, yeah, I don't think anyone should ever compromise their value systems, because that's not really something that somebody can give up. If you're a person and you value having kids, you want to have many, 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 many kids. You're a guy, let's say, and then you end up with a woman who, I don't know, she had a hysterectomy or she doesn't want to have kids. That's a value you have. It don't matter how good you connect. That's not really worth it. You know what I mean? So there are certain values, there are certain things where it's not worth compromising on. I can understand that. Now, here is my personal opinion. This is just my personal opinion. What I would do if I was still a single woman, and let's say I had a long line or a history of unsuccessful relationships. I felt I hit, a hard time in my life and I just wanted to see results. What I would probably do to get a realistic expectation of my standards is I'd probably talk to somebody about it. Because I truly believe that women in particular, okay, as women, sometimes we can come up with standards that really sound good, but they just may not be actually helpful. Um, I can't speak for men on this level, but I generally think men are a little bit more simple. It's like, as long as she looks good, and she's nice to get along with, she looks good and she's nice. Like, that's like it works. 9 times out of 10, that's like that right there is like, okay, at least she's in the door. But women, usually we have a huge laundry list, and even if we say we don't, if you start to have a honest conversation, then you find out that the laundry list is a little bit longer than what you want to admit. So I think, again, women who they've had a long line of unsuccessful relationships, they kind of feel stuck. I think that's when it's important to get real. Talk to somebody. Talk to somebody that you trust who could give you honest feedback and be like, okay, are these standards realistic? And what I don't mean is go talk to your other single friend who is single and struggling and just got a relationship, is still heartbroken. You maybe need to go talk to somebody that's been married for some time. Talk to a married woman. Maybe that has a few kids, or that's gone through different seasons. Talk to a dude. You know what I mean? I think as women, we see ourselves as the product, and I hate to use this example, but I'm just using this just to make a point. If we're a woman and we're the product, and men are the consumers, we should ask the consumers. Maybe talk to I don't know, a friend, a brother, somebody who's going to tell you straight. Somebody's who's going to give you the real deal and be like, these are my standards. Is this realistic? Because the reality is, I think sometimes women can get so stuck in their standards. And then the more experience they have, the more dates they have, it's almost as if sometimes those standards can go up, because they feel like, oh, I've gone through this experience. I've gone through this amount of pain. I've been this heartbroken. That means I'm going to be doing better. That means that I'm going to, go to this level. That means that it's going to be even better than before. And sometimes it don't always work like that. Like, especially if you're a woman, if you had a high body count, you've had a lot of situationships, you're getting older. Many men look at that actually lowering your value. And again, this is in the sexual dating marketplace. I'm not saying you are less as a person because, you've had different situations, but I'm saying as far as your value in the sexual dating marketplace, many men look at that and be like, nah, actually that your experience doesn't make you more valuable. It makes you less valuable. And this is where it can get kind of hard. And this is where it can be a tough conversation, because, like I said, as women, the more we go through experiences, the more we have hard challenges, we feel like that automatically means that sometimes that causes us to increase her standards. And that can be healthy or it can be hurtful. So I think some of the best ways to make sure that the list that you have, the things that you're not wanting to settle on, one of the best ways to make sure that's realistic is sometimes I think to actually run it by people who have the results that you want. So, like I said, if you're going to talk to a woman, don't talk to another single woman who just broke up and who is struggling. You need to talk to a married woman. Talk to somebody that's been in a successful relationship for some time, who you can trust, who can keep it real and honest and tell you what it is. And like I said, maybe talk to some men, talk to a trusted man. If you have, I don't know, a father or somebody that you look up to, I don't know, brothers, friends, just somebody that is going to tell you the truth, not try to sugarcoat it, not make you feel good, not placate your feelings, but tell you, what do men actually think? If I'm the product and they are a consumer in the market in this situation, and again, I use that just as an example to try to paint a picture or scenario. What do they want? What do they want? Because at the end of the day, women, we have to remember, although we can have all these standards and we can have all these different things we want to do and have all these different ideas, at the end of the day, if the man doesn't choose us, then we're not going to get chosen. Reason being is most women are not willing to propose. Most women are not willing to propose, and most women don't want to pursue a man. They just don't. I mean, you have some who are being more open about it, who are, I think the advent of like sex positive and just modern femininity period. I mean, you see more women being more aggressors in that sense, but there's still a large population of women who they want to be pursued. They want to be pursued from beginning to end, and they want to be proposed to. So for that very reason, we can have all these standards and all these desires and all these expectations, but at the end of the day, if we're not getting picked, if dude isn't stepping up to us, then it doesn't really mean anything. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I think especially for women who find themselves in certain stages in their life where they feel like they're just going on in circles, and it's just they're getting more experience after experience of broken experience of this and that. I think that's where sometimes they can be helpful to maybe talk to somebody. Like when I was single and I wanted to be married, I hung around my married friends. I had married friends. I had people that I talked to, mentors, who would tell me honestly of the different challenges they had in their relationships, the good and the bad. So it's like I surrounded myself by the people that I wanted to be like in a certain capacity, And so I think that's really important for people who want to see change in a particular area. I hear women suffer from FOMO, fear of missing out, and will look for social media influencer who align with their thoughts. I think that is right, and I don't think that that's helpful. I said this earlier, it is very dangerous for a woman to compare her real life to a false reality that she sees on the screen of her cell phone. That's bad. Don't do it. Don't do it, because we don't know what happened behind closed doors. And usually, if a person is so committed to project a particular image, like if they're like crazy about it, sometimes I do that because of insecurity. Unless they're a brand ambassador and they're getting paid to be online or there's some financial incentive. If a person is just crazy about promoting a certain image and they're like super boastful about certain stuff, then 9 times out of 10 they're insecure and they have something to hide. So I think you're right about the FOMO. I said, okay, I see this. I think this fellow Brit is generally right, but all of what she says pertains to the end of a relationship, not during one. She sounds smarter than she is because she's speaking from hindsight. Yeah, no, I think, and mostly personal experience. No, I agree. There's definitely things here that I agree with. There are certain things that I question. So that would be one that I would say, women, you want to see better results in your life. It's probably good to talk to people that have the results that you want. Married women, married godly women, people in your life that can speak sound relationship and spiritual advice. Like, I think that's 9 out of 10. That's what you should do. Secondly, okay, now here's where her and I depart. I think she made the idea of women should be inspired by their men, and she made the example of just like her personal thing is, just because I don't have a house does not mean that he should not have a house. And the reason he should have a house is because I should want to be able to brag about him and show him off. So to me, it sounds as if, she wants a bit of a trophy husband. She wants somebody that she can show off and talk about and respect. Um, Again, I slightly disagree with that just because knowing what's going on in the economy, at least out here in America. I can't speak for what's happening in Britain or whatever. I think the UK where she's from, but at least in America, people are struggling all across the board of really all ages, especially millennials and younger generation. So for me to have if I was a single, person in my 20s or 30s or whatever, and have the expectation that, oh, well, I don't have a house, I haven't been able to attain this level, but he better have a house because he's a man. I just don't know that that's accurately looking at what's going on in the scenario. I don't know that that's necessarily right. And then if we're going, and this is where it gets tricky. This is where it gets tricky. And enter Kevin Samuels. Love him or you hate him, but he makes a good point. If you're going to demand that this particular man has this financial portfolio and that he has this level of success, you're not the only woman that wants him. There's other women that want him at that point. And now you are competing, whether or not you want it. You are competing for that man's attention because you're not going to pursue him nine times out of 10. You don't want to be the one to pursue him. You don't want to be the one to make the next step. So it's like you're competing for this man's attention. So if you're wanting a guy that has a great house, a great career, has his financial portfolio, what are you doing to get his attention? What about you is so special that he's going to now bypass all the other women who want him to want you? So that's, I think, where I understand where she's coming from as far as, hey, just because he's the man, I guess he should want to inspire me. I'm like, I think I understand where she's coming from, but I don't agree. I don't agree just because I think the way the culture is set up, it doesn't work like that. Also, me personally, just from a spiritual standpoint, as a Christian woman, I think to say, okay, as a Christian woman, or as a Christ follower, I need to be with a guy that has a bigger house because he's supposed to inspire me. For me, that falls under the lines of preferences. I don't know that would be a standard. That would just be a preference because from a strictly spiritual standpoint, there's nothing spiritual about that. That's just a person's personal preference, what they desire. That's a fleshly or carnal want, but it's not necessary for for actually finding a man of God. And if what you want is a man of God or somebody that shares a faith, that she alluded to earlier, that should not should not be the deciding factor. It should not. How much earthly possessions that person has should not be a deciding factor because that is not what the gospel really is about in that sense. So that's why I'm saying, me personally, I don't know that I would ever put that as a standard for many reasons, from a realistic standpoint, from a spiritual standpoint, even from an ethical standpoint. Me personally, I just don't think that's necessarily right given what's going on, at least in the US. Again, I can't speak for the UK. I can't speak for where she's coming from. Maybe the economy is a lot better out there and having a house is commonplace, but it certainly is not out here, not for millennials or anyone younger generations. So that's my point. Also, lastly, the idea of a trophy husband. I think, and again, this is just my opinion. I think that's where we start getting into touchy territory, because if you want a trophy husband, which is what it sounds like she wants. Now, she didn't allude to that, but like I said, she mentioned wanting a guy, this idea of respect, like needing to have a man that you should respect. And she also alluded to the fact that like she's ambitious and likes to be around ambitious men who also encourage her, and she encourages them. So she wants an ambitious man. And then she made this point about wanting somebody that has a house, wanting somebody that inspires her, wanting somebody that does these different things. So I guess it's interesting because what I found with those kinds of men, and again, I won't say I'm the expert on this, but what I found, I think, for those kinds of men is that they generally desire and want certain kind of women, if that makes sense. Like I feel like those kind of highly competitive men don't necessarily always want women who are may not always want women who are as ambitious. They may want a more traditional woman. They may want a woman who is inspiring to them. They may want a woman who they kind of see as like the trophy, for better or for worse. Now, we can enter into a whole other discussion as to whether or not anybody should be seen as a trophy. That's a whole other discussion. But I don't know. I think if you're wanting like a strong alpha male kind of type, then I don't know that you could come with the expectation that like, okay, he needs to be the trophy. I don't know that that would work if you want like a strong alpha male. Now, if not, if you're wanting to kind of run the show, maybe you want a guy who's maybe a little more liberal. He may believe in the co-partner, or the co-leading kind of thing. Then okay, that might work. But if she is wanting like the alpha male type that kind of brings home the bacon, provides the home, provides all these different things, then he most likely is going to want maybe a more traditionally minded woman. And the ambition and the go-getting and the, hey, you're supposed to inspire me and I'm supposed to inspire you, the co-leading, I just don't know that would work. But again, this is just my opinion. Like I said, this is just my opinion. And these are just certain things that I picked up from the video. And I'm wondering if that's what she meant. But yeah, just my thoughts. I see, has she touched on being the kind of person, it says, has she touched on being the kind of person that the person who meets her standards would want? She has not, from my understanding. I think she's just talking to women about, what they deserve. Okay, and I see this. Women have to be really careful about the term I deserve. Do people really deserve anything? Okay, I agree with you on that, actually. I agree with you that the term deserve, that's a tough one. I don't really know that it is deserve. I think it's more often than not, it's work for, or it's qualified for. I think more often than not, it is that. So yeah, in this video, I've seen her mostly just focus on women and the different ways they should make sure that they keep their standards and their preferences clear and defined. I haven't really seen, as much as a focus or emphasis on what the woman should do. But like I said, maybe that's another video. Who knows? I'm newer to her content, so I'm just doing a review. Okay, he said, it's sounding more and more like if he's not a unicorn, he'll never be good enough in the 2021 market. Fair. Okay, so we're all pretty much done, and I'm wrap this up because it's getting late.
Like, you have a choice. You are a chooser. And I think a lot of people see relationships, see dating as a job interview. When you're at a job interview and you're pretty much desperate, you need this job, you're going to sit back and say, I'll do that, yes I will. You're not going to make a fuss. And you're going to be interviewed, but you're not going to be interviewing. However, if you have confidence and you're secure in yourself, you know that this job interview isn't the only one. You've got others lined up. So you're going to ask questions about the salary. You're going to ask questions about the work environment. You're going to start demanding how long you want to work. You're going to tell them how long you want to work, not how much time should I give to this company. No, I'm not working on Thursdays. I'm working 4 days, okay? I'm having a 4-day work week. When you have options, when you believe you have options, you don't have to settle. When you don't believe you have options, you don't have options, and therefore you settle, right? And I want to leave you guys with this. Don't be so concerned about being chosen that you forget to choose. Women have the right to choose what they want in their life and what they don't want in their lives. And a lot of people feel like, what if I leave him and I don't find anyone better? Well, that's the gamble that you're willing to take. And if you're not willing to take that, that means that you need to be happy with this person. Maybe you're not settling. This is the person for you. And you've got to be happy. And you've got to close your eyes and stop comparing yourself, your relationship to other people. And accept the person for who they are and love them. Love makes the person better. Supporting a person makes the person better. The grass isn't always greener on the other side, but I'm talking to people specifically who know they've settled or are about to settle. You have a choice. Just look back on your past relationship. Imagine you settled there. Imagine you didn't think there was another bus coming and you took the crappy bus. Then another bus was about to come by that had seats available. Comfy ones. Actually first class bus. But you never know if you settle. So that's the end of the video, guys. I hope you guys enjoy.
Okay, so that's pretty much it. Yeah, that's so I agree with her on the point of yeah, like definitely women women shouldn't be, always looking at the grass is greener on the other side, the FOMO, the fear of missing out. That's not always helpful because yeah, like what if it's not? What if it's not? I think maybe where her and I depart a little bit is going back to the settling, the settling component. She is absolutely right. Women should have the choice to choose. They should be able to choose. I totally and completely agree with that. And to a certain extent, women do choose. Women can choose. Here's I think the kicker though. Women have to be chosen first. Unless women by and large stand up and say, okay, we're going to start initiating these relationships, we're going to start proposing, we're going to start proposing to our men. And unless there is a huge social change, most women by and large still want to be pursued and they still want to be proposed to. They want the man to take that step. They do. So while yeah, there is the option of like yeah, women have to choose. They have to first be chosen first. There has to at least be an opportunity presented for them to choose. And if that doesn't exist, then it's like okay, then what are we really talking about? And at that point, we have to that's where we get down to the nitty gritty of like okay, where am I actually at? Water seeks its own level. So a lot of times, if you want to know okay, what are my options? What's working for me? You look at around you. You can look at what is it that you're actually attracting, or what is it that you're not attracting? What is it that you are, you're pushing away? But water seeks its own level. So again, I certainly agree. Women should have the option to choose. They should, but they have to be chosen first. And that leads to the bigger question of, as a woman, if you do desire certain things from a partner, which is not necessarily a bad thing in and of itself. You have certain qualities, certain, you know, um, expectations, demands. You also have to make sure that you are the person that person desires. That's just a part of it. Let's say you want a guy who is super fit. He's a gym rat. He has a 6 pack or 8 pack, not even 6 pack. He has 8 packs. He's in the gym 3, 4 hours a day, twice a day, doing all this kind of different stuff. Okay, it's okay to have that desire, but if you haven't worked out in the last, 20 years, and you're, 50 pounds overweight and you're out of shape, the likelihood of him wanting to be with you when health to him is such a huge aspect of who he is, it's slim to none. So that's what I'm saying. It is certainly okay to have standards and it's certainly okay to have, some expectations within reason. Now, I do agree that, again, if you're a woman that's had a lot of failed relationships, at that point, it might be helpful for you to talk to somebody, talk to a family member, somebody you trust, somebody that's been married, just, spiritual advisor, whoever, to realistically talk to you and make sure your standard list is actually realistic and functional. Make sure it's not something based upon some fairy tale or based upon some stuff you've seen on Instagram or even based upon previous relationships. You want to make sure that you have a healthy working list of standards. Yeah. So with that said, you should definitely as a woman make sure that that is the case. But at the end of the day, apart from that, you want to make sure that you are the person that person wants. And it's good to have standards, it's good to have expectations, but it's also important to work on your individual self and also, make sure that you also are, bringing value to the relationship. That is equally as important. And I think some of us women do a disservice that's thinking that the more relationships we have, the more situationships we have, the more we date, the more desirable we may be to the opposite sex, or the more we should demand. And unfortunately, sometimes it's the opposite. Depending upon what you want, depending upon what you desire, an increase in experience and especially an increase in body count can actually work to your detriment. Um, and so that's why I think this is where it helps sometimes to have another person be realistic and say, okay, you were 20, now you're, I don't know, maybe now you're 35, 36. Maybe you have now a kid or two. You can't necessarily expect the same thing that you did than when you were 20. Now that you have more experience, you have 2 kids, you have these, extra expenses, for lack of a better term, you can't necessarily expect the same caliber of guy. You have to adjust with where you're at in life. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I don't think adjusting is a bad thing. I think adjusting sometimes can be the best way for you to actually have contentment in your life, because you're not chasing after a fantasy or after standards that just are not realistic, but you're chasing after that which is attainable. So those are my thoughts overall. I think she said some really good things. There are things where I don't totally agree, but I always respect anyone that makes it a point to try to help women, to try to offer guidance. I think that's what she does. Okay, let me see. I see a few comments coming in. So you said not even here in the UK, people are struggling to get on the property ladder. Okay, we're the first generation that's estimated to be the worst off than the generation before. Okay, it's the same out here in the US. So that is good to know. So going back to my earlier point, is it really realistic knowing that you're in a generation that is worse off economically to those previously? Is it realistic to expect the same thing that your grandparents had, or maybe your great grandparents had, or whatever it may be? Is it really realistic to expect that when there is such a large population of people who don't have that experience? Or if you do expect that, are you so great? Are you the top 5, 10, whatever percent to where you think that that's realistic? So yeah, interesting things. But anyways, overall I thought this was a good video. I will say, just on a total, this is like a random side note, and this is something that I always like to encourage women in general. Take relationship advice from those who have the results that you want. As I said before, and I said again, I wanted to be married. I wanted to have a relationship. I had to start hanging around married women, talking to them, gleaning from them. I got marriage counseling from married women that I knew from church, who I feel like had a strong relationship with God, who could be honest. That was very important. So while I think there's certainly value in listening to other people's perspective, I think at the end of the day, you really want to take everything with a grain of salt. There's a saying that says single women keep women single. And I think sometimes that can be true. If you desire to be married, do you need to go listen to your single friend, or go listen to your, like I said, your younger cousin that's maybe had 2 boyfriends? Like, probably not. So, I find it interesting that I think there is a ton of content out there of relationship advice being given that's not necessarily coming from women who have been married for a long time, or who actually in long-term relationships. I think it's valuable to have these platforms or these channels where women share their dating experiences. I think there's certainly value in that. But just on a personal level, I wish I could see more content, relationship advice given from women who have maybe actually been in long-term relationships for some time. So they can actually now tell us in the field, this is what's been going on, I think there's certainly value in that. So that's what I would say. Single women especially, if you want to be married, take relationship advice from married women. Don't take it from single women. Or if you are going to take it with a big grain of salt, because what they're saying at that point has, at best, they can tell you what to avoid in the dating market, or what they can offer as far as a long-term relationship is theory. It's not necessarily, it hasn't been tested through real life. So that's, I think, the value of talking to somebody that actually has what you want, because their experience has been tested through life to find out whether or not it's true or not true. So those are my final thoughts. Anyways, it's getting late here. I think I should sign off. Oh, this is a longer than I thought. Anyways, appreciate you guys who've hopped on this late evening, and we'll talk later.